Are you being poisoned? One community in Niagara Falls may be, and New York State knows about it.
We got a problem. We got a big problem.
Here's the thing. New York State knows what's going on inside the Goodyear plant in Niagara Falls, to the extent that they have their own mapping, a document obtained by the 7 News I team that basically shows the highest level of concentration is right over the plant and then extends outward from there. This chemical in particular causes bladder cancer. And with high levels of chemical being emitted from this plant, the concern is the community is being poisoned.
It's something that Goodyear should be addressing.
So there are documents between Goodyear and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation explaining all of this. New York State says, Goodyear, you're out of compliance, as they look for a new permit. But still, despite these letters and despite the documentation saying they're out of compliance, New York State is allowing them to continue operations as if it's the time of the initial permit issuance.
And I'm wondering, how can this continue to happen?
Is the state allowing Goodyear to violate the law?
The state is allowing Goodyear to violate the law for certain, and it needs to stop.
The chemical in question here is called toluidine. It's a known human carcinogen, and as I mentioned, has been linked to bladder cancer. In fact, I spoke to one guy. His name is Guy Mort. He also worked at the plant and has bladder cancer. Now, how can you say that working at the plant caused his bladder cancer? But you can, because Goodyear is now paying for his bladder cancer treatments for life as part of a workers' comp case settlement that happened years ago. But he's not alone, and there are many other people who are suffering as well. Goodyear telling me they have a biannual screening available for people who work at the plant, both past, present, that allows these people to get screened for bladder cancer. But Mort told me the test is optional, and he says he's lucky to have gotten that test. I mentioned that New York State knows what's going on here and is allowing them, Goodyear, to operate as if it's the time of the initial permit issuance. That permit was issued decades ago. Times have changed, standards have changed, and the amount of toluidine New York State is allowing these facilities to emit has been significantly lowered. That was in 2021. But as I mentioned, their initial permit is decades old. This one environmental lawyer I spoke with told me he's concerned for the community. They don't even know, he says, what is happening as that air continues to spread all throughout the area.
That's really the problem here, is that I don't think that people who live in that neighborhood to the east of the plant have any knowledge as to what's happening. I fear for the people who live outside the plant.
So he wants something done.
This has been going on too long. Someone needs to step in here and say, put a stop to it and order the company to clean up immediately.
He wants somebody to come in and say, Goodyear, you've got to start operating and being a good neighbor here, operating within the new legal standards that are in place and have been in place since 2021, considering right now they're operating well above and beyond what's legal. Goodyear is emitting toluidine at 7 times, in some cases, what is the current legal standard. Again, changed in 2021. And the DEC released a statement to me explaining all of this after they issued a civil penalty of $15,000 against Goodyear. That was for 2 violations. And what they say in this statement is that the order includes a civil penalty and requires Goodyear to undertake operational modifications that will further reduce off-site concentrations of orthotoluidine and result in short and long-term reductions in emissions. But they go on to say here in this statement, and this is what really is concerning for a lot of people, based on available data, potential emissions from the Goodyear facility have not been shown to pose a significant or immediate risk to public health. New York State's health-based ambient air guidelines for orthotoluidine are set at levels to protect the public from health effects and are more stringent than federal risk thresholds. DEC's annual guideline concentrations are not standards and should not be considered a bright line between concentrations that cause health effects and those that do not, Rather, they are set at a level to inform permitting decisions and reduce emissions with the best controls available. So DEC is calling this a potential emission from Goodyear, despite their own mapping showing there is orthotoluidine emissions coming from the Goodyear plant, at again rates higher than what is legally standard right now. This is a problem that so many people are really concerned about, including one environmental lawyer. And people are being affected here.
I know they are. People are dying.
So as part of this fine, as part of this civil penalty, the DEC is allowing Goodyear to make a plan. They are allowing Goodyear to have until the end of January to put that plan in place and submit it to the DEC, all about corrective action. Everything that has to be done to stop the emission or limit the emission of orthotoluidine has to be in place permanently by 2026. And some of these people who live in the community and some of these advocacy groups say that's too far out and they want something done right now. So you're probably asking yourself, can the EPA come in here and do something? The EPA is a federal organization, the Environmental Protection Agency. They really don't have jurisdiction, so this is really something that has to come from the state. That said, these advocacy groups have met with the EPA, and when it comes to our state lawmakers, they are pissed with the DEC right now. State Senator Rob Ortt from Niagara County has issued a statement to the 7 News team. He sent me this comment saying that the health and well-being of both employees and the surrounding community is a priority of mine, but apparently not the DEC, he said. That's a direct quote. He also went on to say that the DEC has a total lack of transparency, not only with public officials, but with the public as well. So now the DEC is holding a listening session with the community to try and get their feedback and quell concerns that they may have, considering this is a cancer-causing chemical that's being emitted into their community. But it's virtual, so it's in a really controlled setting. You're just a picture on a box, and they're able to mute your mic, unmute your mic, and then say, thanks so much, have a great night.
The reason why there have been a delay with the last couple months with us being able to disseminate this information is because we were in an enforcement context. And due to the sensitivities and the confidentiality of those communications, we weren't able to get into a lot of the details that we have tonight.
So where do we go from here? This is a matter that we're staying on top of, because if they don't have to put these permanent procedures or methods in place until 2026, what can they do in the meantime? Will they stay true to their plan that they have to submit by the end of the month? All of these questions that still need answers.